No one shouted at me. No one hit me. They just made me ashamed of everything I felt. This is my nightly ritual again, the fire, the bourbon, and the kind of silence where I hear my thoughts a little too clearly or loudly. I stare into the flames, listen to them crack and spit, and replay everything that happened. And the only thought that won't let go of me is, how could I have believed that? I suppose I should have gone to a priest, but the truth is, I doubt any priest would want to hear all the things I've done. This fire, it's the only witness that doesn't look away. Before I tell you about the hardest period of my life, allow me to ask one thing. Please like the video and subscribe, but only if this confession truly resonates with you. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It means something to me, knowing who I'm opening my soul to tonight. It started small, not with a rule, not with a punishment, just with a glance. The kind of glance that doesn't raise its voice but still silences a room. They didn't like emotions. That much became clear fast. Joy was frivolous. Sadness was weakness. Anger was selfishness. And fear? Fear was a sign you didn't trust enough. No one told me that directly, not at first. But the moment you laughed too loudly or sighed too deeply, someone would look at you, not angry, just disappointed, like you'd spilled something sacred without meaning to. I remember one moment, it's burned into my head. Someone dropped a metal bowl during morning prep. The clang echoed through the hall. It startled me, and I laughed, not at them, just reflex, nervous energy. You know the kind of laugh, quick, automatic, human. The silence that followed was worse than any scream. One of the elders turned, not fast, not dramatically. He just looked at me, slow and still, and he said, "Do you honestly find that funny?" That was it. No scolding, no threat, just that one question floating in the air like smoke. I didn't answer, because there wasn't a safe answer. If I said yes, I was cruel. If I said no, I was lying. So I stayed silent, and after that, I just stopped laughing. Over time, the silence grew teeth. It started watching me. They always seemed to know what you felt, even when you didn't. If I looked tired, someone would say, "You're not trying to attract sympathy, are you?" If I paused too long before answering, they'd lean in. "Are you pouting? Something from childhood you haven't released yet?" And the worst part, you couldn't deny it, because the moment you defended yourself, it proved you were reacting. And reacting was impurity. They never raised their voice. They didn't need to. They spoke like surgeons. Calm, precise, under your skin. So you started checking yourself, watching the edges of your face, measuring how wide your smile was, how long you held someone's gaze. You shaved away anything unnecessary, until your face became a mask you forgot how to take off. And the longer you wore it, the more you believed it was your real one. Let me pause here. I'm not saying they brainwashed me. I walked into that room. I agreed to the silence. I believed in the calm they offered. And a part of me still misses it. Not because it was right, but because it was quiet. And when you've been loud your whole life, when your mind runs and stumbles and aches, sometimes silence feels like salvation. But it came with a price. One I didn't even notice I was paying. Until one night, I looked in the mirror and couldn't tell if I was tired or just empty. And I remember thinking, maybe that's the goal, to not feel tired, to not feel anything at all. I started hearing their voices inside my own, not hallucinations, not whispers, just phrases, echoes. Is that your thought or ours? Is that emotion coming from you or from your past? Do you want this, or is it the old version of you craving comfort again? And that's how it happened. That's how I stopped trusting my own mind. It's not that they forced me to obey, they just made me doubt, and once doubt is planted, obedience grows all on its own. I would sit in silence and second-guess the smallest things. If I felt the urge to speak, I'd pause. Why do I want to talk right now? What do I expect to gain from this? Am I trying to be heard, or just avoid silence? Every urge had to be filtered, every reaction purified. I remember once I raised my hand during a reflection circle. I was going to say something, I don't even remember what, but before I could speak, he, the one assigned to watch over me, he said, "I think you're speaking from tension, not from clarity. Let's breathe together. You can wait." I nodded, and I never finished the sentence. Over time, I stopped forming sentences in my head altogether. Instead, I formed questions. Should I even want to think this? Would the group approve of this feeling? Would someone higher than me consider this an honest moment? You don't understand how subtle it is until it's already working. It's not about rules, it's about internalizing someone else's preferences so deeply that you believe they were yours to begin with. And soon, I was doing it to others. A new member would sit beside me during silent hour. I'd watch their knee bounce, their fingers twitch, and I'd whisper, "You okay? You seem agitated. Want me to sit closer?" I wasn't trying to control them. I genuinely thought I was helping. Helping them regulate, helping them release. Because by then, I believed emotions were messes to be cleaned, like dust on the floor. They collect fast, and if you don't sweep often, they choke the room. At some point, my days became rehearsals. I would wake up, sit still, breathe, observe, and I'd wait. Wait for someone to ask me how I was feeling, so I could answer correctly. We weren't allowed to say things like, "I'm sad," or "I'm angry." That would be claiming ownership over dysfunction. We were taught to say things like, "I think I'm still clinging to old wounds," or "There's a pattern surfacing in me, I'll sit with it," or "I'm opening space for clarity around this discomfort." We didn't express emotions, we diagnosed them, like doctors who were terrified of catching what the patient had. The more cleansed I became, the more I got praised. They said I was a mirror, that I could hold space for others, that I had become still. Still, such a small word for such a big erasure. I wasn't still, I was hollow. I had stopped twitching, stopped blinking too fast, stopped biting my nails or raising an eyebrow, and the reward. I got to sit closer to the center, closer to the stage, closer to the voice that told us all what we really were. It felt safe. No one would question me there because I had become one of the ones who do the questioning. But inside, sometimes something would stir. Not often. Just tiny flinches, like when a new girl joined and laughed too loudly during dinner. I remember flinching, but not at the sound. At the memory of what laughter used to feel like, a wave, a release, something bursting out that you didn't need permission for. I missed that, but only for a second, because immediately after I looked at her, and I asked her the same question they once asked me. "Do you find that funny?" She went silent. She didn't answer, and I felt proud. Proud that I had protected the silence. Proud that I had passed it on. It wasn't immediate, but at some point a switch flipped. They had a word for it. When someone reacted too quickly, too loudly, too emotionally, they called it overflowing. And no one wanted to be told they were overflowing. It was like being told your soul was leaking all over the floor. I remember one moment, small, stupid. We were cleaning after lunch. Someone had made a joke about the salt. I don't even remember what it was. But I laughed, a real laugh. Sharp, loud, sudden. And I saw it. One of the older ones turned their head slightly, not fast, just a small tilt, like a bird sensing danger. They didn't say anything, not right away. But later that evening, during quiet time, someone sat beside me and whispered, "You were loud today. Are you ready to release that?" That word, release. It sounded kind, like letting go of a burden, but what it meant was, you had to fix it. Fixing it could mean many things. It could be standing in silence for an hour, or writing a single sentence over and over in a notebook until your wrist cramped. Sometimes it meant moving rocks from one side of the garden to the other, and then back again. Or kneeling by the door and repeating, "I welcome correction," until someone told you to stop. The idea was simple. If a feeling escaped, it meant something inside wasn't aligned, and misalignment had to be scrubbed out. Gently, silently, but completely. So I said yes. Yes, I want to release that. They smiled, not warmly, but approvingly. After that, I started noticing everything I did, every sound I made, every twitch, every accidental smile. If my voice went up even slightly when speaking, I'd ask, "Do I need to be still today?" If I felt anything ripple under my skin, joy, irritation, even curiosity, I'd say, "I'd like to release this." It wasn't even that they asked anymore. I volunteered. There was one day, rainy, long, gray, I had felt unusually restless. Like my skin didn't fit right. No reason, just a buzz under everything. By evening, during group silence, I raised my hand. "I don't feel clear today," I said. "Would someone suggest a purification?" The oldest among them, he had pale hands and never blinked, nodded. "Write down everything you think you want," he said. "Every craving, every hope. Fill the pages. And when you're done, burn them. You don't need them anymore." So I did. 5 pages, small writing. I wanted warm soup. I wanted to sleep an hour more. I wanted someone to ask how I really was. And I set it all on fire. The flames were quiet. I watched them eat my wants. What's strange is, that didn't make me sad. It made me proud. I wasn't being corrected anymore. I was choosing correction. It felt adult, pure, like I had moved past the mess of being human. I thought, maybe this is what peace feels like. No hunger, no longing, no noise inside. I didn't realize that what I called peace was really the silence after erasing myself. And after that day, I noticed something even stranger. I wasn't the only one. Others began doing the same. Someone would say, "I felt too excited today," and volunteer to fast for 24 hours. Another would say, "I kept thinking about home," and asked to sleep on the floor that night. No one punished us. We punished ourselves. But we called it cleansing. And they watched and nodded. Not with cruelty, not even superiority. Just that same quiet approval. Like gardeners watching weeds pull themselves out. There's a certain silence you only hear once you've gone completely still inside. It's not like normal quiet, not like night or snow or closed rooms. It's deeper. Like something in you finally sat down and stopped arguing. That's what they wanted from us. They never said, "Don't feel." They just made feeling unnecessary. Over time, we stopped saying things like, "I'm happy," or "I'm sad," or "That scared me." Instead, we said, "I am observing movement. I'm noticing resistance. I'm allowing release." We replaced emotions with phrases, because phrases could be controlled, measured, smoothed out. One day, a girl, maybe 19, maybe 30, no one asked. She started crying during a group reading. No sound, just tears sliding down her face. Her hands didn't shake. Her body stayed still. But still, someone noticed. They didn't shout. They just waited for the reading to finish. Then one of the seniors walked over and whispered something. I didn't hear it, but I saw her nod. That night, she volunteered to do stillness duty for 3 days. No talking, no eye contact, no movement unless directed. No one forced her. She offered. And the strange thing? We admired her for it. She had shown discipline, strength. She had seen her overflow and cut it off at the root. I remember thinking, that's the kind of peace I want. I didn't want to feel. I wanted to be seen as someone who had conquered feeling. After that, I became quieter, not just with words, but inside. When someone laughed nearby, I didn't turn. When someone dropped a plate, I didn't flinch. When someone whispered gossip, I didn't blink. They noticed. I was moved closer to the inner circle, allowed to sit in the second row during meditations. I didn't ask for it. But when it happened, it felt like being told, yes, now you're becoming clean. There was a phrase we used to repeat during morning prep. Emotion is a wave. Let it pass. Do not follow it. And I remember, one morning, I couldn't even tell if I had any waves left. I just stood there, watching the steam from my cup, thinking, I don't even know what I'm feeling. And I didn't panic. I didn't reach for anything. I just thought, good. It's easy to think control comes from pressure, from shouting, from punishment, from threat. But this was something else. They didn't erase my emotions. They made me erase them myself, and I thanked them for teaching me how. Someone once asked me, later, when was the last time you felt something real? And I couldn't answer, but I could tell them this. I remember exactly when I started feeling ashamed of having feelings. And maybe that's the same thing. Maybe that was the moment I stopped being me. Or maybe I just became what they wanted. And maybe that felt better. I don't remember the last time I truly felt something. But I remember clearly when I started feeling ashamed for feeling anything at all. And maybe that's when I stopped being me. Or maybe that was the beginning of my new self.